here you are, you want to do a documentary on, something important and something saying, hey, this isn't going to be around forever. It flies in the face of the main marketing tool of most resorts in the industry. Just look at any resort's marketing. Deepest snow, best powder, most snowfall.
Scientists tend to state facts in a very bland way. And that sort of disconnect between what the facts imply and the way that scientists behave reinforces for a lot of people that this isn't really much of a problem. Otherwise, we'd be tearing our hair out and yelling.
I do see a lot of people that are passionate about it. I had no idea until I bring it up, and they're like, yeah, it really bugs me too. And I was reading this thing the other day, and all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, there's a whole network of people that want to be super involved but are a little bit afraid to talk about it because it can be polarizing.
This was the first sustainability department in the ski industry, and there was skepticism. There was, what do those guys do? Even today, I think there's a feeling of, hey, I'm making money by selling lift tickets. What are those guys doing?
It was actually our city attorney who noticed this and started to say, I've heard about this thing, climate change. Do you think it's impacting Aspen? Is there something we should do about it?
Grab hold of her and keep her, don't you let go. Can you tiptoe, can you thread a needle as you go? Heads or tails, she loves me, not the other side. Till you realize distance makes me hard to recognize. You can lay me down across the track, our souls keep. Let the whistle of the engineer sing us to sleep, while I'm staring in your eyes through the longing and the lies. But we both know a train coming down the line.
Do you want me to talk about what I'm doing?
Up to you.
I'm putting on grip tape, which is a base that you use, usually for training, but this is kind of a training run because it's not going to be a super fast, and it's a type of layered wax that you press this on and then you peel it off, and it stays for a long time. So I'll be having this for the rest of the winter if we get more winter skiing, and if not, I'll have it for next year. When I first heard about it, I thought it was unbelievable that people would ski 55 kilometers in the middle of winter. I grew up as a hockey player, and our coaches always say, don't go skiing, we don't want you to fall and break your leg. And then hearing about the Birkebeiner and learning about the history and the Vikings and saving the young King Prince and the 800 years of history, it was all very appealing. And being of Swedish descent, I figured a Norwegian story would not be crossing too many borders. Into the town of Hayward. I think that Hayward is like 2,000 people, maybe 3,000. And during Berkey weekend, it's probably more like 30,000, 40,000. So it's millions of dollars of food and lodging and entertainment. This is quite a scene with banners strung along here, and you come over the International Bridge on Highway 63 and then cruise down in here, and people are cheering. And by that time, I've been skiing for 6 hours and I'm totally tired, and I'm trying to look like I got lots of energy. So I'm skiing as hard as I can, and some people recognize me. Hey, PT, we see you. Good work. Way to go. How many have you done? So this is 40 years of what do I do in this one? I think I should put it in the same place. One more year.
Hey everybody, good morning. Ben Pop here, standing in Rosie's Field, the location of many epic starts and finishes the Birkebeiner gone by. It's a little bit like Groundhog's Day, 50 and sunny again, unfortunately, but you can kind of see behind me here, the trail is holding in. Chris just got done checking a few locations. We have anywhere from 6 inches up north of really hard compact base to about 2 inches down here in some of the more vulnerable areas. That being said, we know that the rain is coming. The forecast kind of is bouncing around, maybe a little bit cooler overnights, maybe not. So we are certainly putting into place and starting to work up contingency plans if we do lose this trail or we lose parts of it. Tonight, we're going to be able to do a really extensive survey of the whole trail as well as get out on the lake. So check back here tomorrow morning.
This is the loop. So on the first year you get the big symbol with Torsten and Skirvald saving baby Prince Haakon. You have to look carefully, you won't see it there. And then in subsequent years, in the old days, they gave this type with 2 snowflakes and 3 snowflakes. And then when you got to 5 snowflakes, that was a big deal.
Good morning, everybody. It's Monday, February 20th, and another update. As much as I am optimistic, I have to be realistic as well. And here we are on the edge of Lake Hayward. Actually, you can kind of see behind Chris there. The water's opened up. And unfortunately, we're no longer going to be able to get you. We can probably get you on the lake, and you can see the ribbon of snow back there, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get you off the lake. So at this point, what I can tell you is that the race for sure will not end in downtown Hayward.
I was just thinking as I'm listening to the news, it's like, yeah, right here in the north woods of Wisconsin, there's a whole bunch of people completely obsessed with nothing more than will that snow come overnight.
How much did it snow?
Last night? Nothing.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
by looking at the grass, flurries.
1/16 of an inch. And they said they need
a minimum of 3.
3 to 5, probably more.
I wanted to give you an update and tell you exactly what's happening. It's still above freezing here. It's foggy, as you can probably tell. I'm out on the ski trail. As you look behind me, there's places that have puddles. Chris and his crew are actually out with a sump pump right now and generator trying to take some of the standing water off. We have about 24 hours more above freezing, and then hopefully it starts to cool down. Much of the base is pretty good. I'll take you on a little ski here in a second, but there's also a lot of open areas. I mean, we are still 100% relying on what happens on Friday.
I'm just hoping Tim and Jessica and Jasper come. Everybody's kind of dropping. Yeah. The only, they come up and they say, "Oh, I'll pay my share," and Doreen says, "I'll send you all the money." And
Also, she's not coming.
no, Doreen's not coming.
Oh, look, it's snowing.
Woo!
It has been clearly. Look, there's enough to ski on.
Yeah, this is a rock ski day.
Wow. Oh my God.
Hey everybody, good morning. It's Friday, about 11 o'clock. I'm up at the Berkey Start area standing on the skate trail. And Berkey 2017 is an official race, is unfortunately canceled.
Just the second time in its 44-year history, the American Birkebeiner has been canceled.
Organizers of the American Birkebeiner Ski Race have canceled this year's event in northern Wisconsin. A snowstorm that dumped more than 10 inches of snow in parts of Wisconsin since Thursday missed the Hayward and Cable area where the annual cross-country race is held. Officials say record high temperatures and rain recently have left the Berkey course unsafe for a race on Saturday.
That's always a disappointment because people train hard for the Birkebeiner, and the people who would have skied their 20th Berkey or their 30th Berkey this year, now they have to wait another year. And of course, with our changing climate, that's an uncertainty that it will happen next year.
We're starting to lose faith in the fact that we're going to have a winter every year as it was even 10, 15, 20 years ago. Christmas time it rained, in mid-January it rained. That's crazy. Typically the third week in January is the coldest here. And this year we were hosting a junior national event for kids from around the region, and it rained. And then you look at, here we are now 3 or 4 weeks later, and there's not a snowflake to be had on the ground for the most part. It's been in the 60s and 50s for 8+ days. We got another inch and a quarter of rain. And I think in years past, we just took for granted, oh, you could go out and the trail of course is going to be fantastic. Now we spend $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year just trying to make sure that we can have a ski trail. It breaks my heart to think about what we could do with that money in terms of youth programming or being able to give it to our school, or some of the things that we could do with that money if we weren't spending it on infrastructure just to make sure the ski trail was there. But I guess, as you say, we're trying to adapt a little bit to the current situation.
Norway and Wisconsin, the race goes on. Tell the Mark to Hayward they'll sing this song about the best in the world, about you and me, to the Birkebeiner rag. Thousands of skiers and a marching band, they'll line the streets, they'll give us a hand. From around the world, come see me, to the Birkebeiner rag.
It's nothing like the real thing. Spinning around in place 10, 12 times is certainly different. It's a pretty sobering thing if this is the new Berkey. Nobody's going to come back.
These races in their respective countries are a really big part of their economies as well. In Norway, it's almost 18,000 people. In Sweden, it's 45,000 people throughout a whole 10 days. They have multiple events. So these are really big organizations.
And have your peers in some of those other races been dealing with the same issues with warming winters?
You know, it's incredible. Last year, almost 50% of the races were either canceled or held on man-made snow. If you look at the World Cup, which is just a subset of these races, none of them were held on natural snow. Everybody in the ski industry around the world is starting to have to try and adapt.
Resorts across the board, and this is an industry trend for the last 5 years, are delving into summer operations much more aggressively. Everybody's starting to do mountain biking. Everybody's looking at aerial adventure courses, zip lines. And Smugglers was one of the first mountain resorts that had robust summer programming. You ready? I'm ready. I'm totally ready. Let's do this. There's a really long history of snow sports in the area. It really has kind of shaped the town, shaped the people, shaped the community. and left its imprint on, you know, what we do and who we are in this area.
Smuggler's Notch, come out here, get some skiing in. You got it good. We'll get them back.
Last year was the toughest winter that we've had weather-wise. So we lost probably a third of our staff of our snow sports school just over the course of 2-3 weeks of the weather being warm, and that's because we didn't have the guests here. We didn't have work for them. You know, to grow a town like this, you want entrepreneurs coming in and starting local businesses, and we're seeing local businesses suffer too. We had a great bagel shop that popped up the winter before last. They had a great winter. They continued into summer operations. Everyone loved them. It was a direct effect of the very bad Christmas holiday season that they had to close their doors. It was friends of mine personally, and so I feel bad for them. If you're a fledgling business and in the second year of your business the winter doesn't deliver, it's going to be hard to stay afloat.
Great little ducks behind me. So there are about 470 ski areas in the United States, and those ski areas are really the economic engine in those communities. They employ people and they drive tax revenues as well.
If you want to say one thing about the entire state budget last year, it was 64 degrees on Christmas Eve. All the ski towns, not just one town, but all the ski towns were very affected. So the state government gets a lot of the revenue off of this tourism, and when that doesn't happen, there's shortfalls. And then where are you going to cut the money? Those are the questions that the government had to deal with because it was 64 on Christmas Eve.
It's funny to hear the furnace going, in an empty building. Of course, they can't let it freeze. Rangeley was a logging town and a summer resort. When I first came here, it came to be fall the first winter in 1971. And I was doing kind of caretaking on the island, and I talked to my fellow caretaker who owned the parents' property on the lake, and I said, Dick, what do you do in the winter? Oh, he said, well, you got two choices. You can buy a saw and go to work in the woods, or you can go up to Saddleback. And I don't know on what whim, went up to Saddleback. That's what started the whole process of 43 years of working up there and getting involved in skiing, which was a great joy. That's all black diamond, double black diamond stuff on that side. The view from the top here, God, I wish it was running so you could get up. I could take you up and you could take a picture. It's one of the best views from any ski area I've been in. It's just beautiful. At the peak, I think that Saddleback employed 200 and some odd people. Now, these were not full-time jobs. Many of them were seasonal, and some of them were, like, I worked as a part-time seasonal ski instructor. But still, it provided a lot of employment, so that rolled a lot of money in and through the town of Rangeley, since a lot of those people lived right here. So it was extremely important to the economy of Rangeley. It's a great place. Very sad to see it not functioning.
The biggest change over the early 80s to now has definitely been in the 2000s. Some of the latest ice overs I've ever seen, like maybe even after Christmas, before the lake freezes over solid and sets, and ice outs as early as like the 13th, the 17th of April.
Sorry to say, but I think our days are numbered of being able to do guided dog sledding trips at this latitude, which is about 44.5 degrees north.
dead guy, huh? Yeah, you don't know him. See, he's sniffing you. He doesn't know you. He's trying to see if he knows you or not. Yeah, he's new, huh? You don't know that guy. Well, good morning to you, too. Good morning to you, too.
This is our 27th year as Mahusik. So we've been at it a little while. You know, a thaw, February used to be like day and a half. Now we get thaws. The last thaw was a whole week. And sometimes at night it didn't even go below freezing. So that's like unheard of. 1 week long thaws in February. It's nuts. Absolutely nuts.
We've noticed a difference over the years. For the dog sledding trips, we used to start scheduling in early December in Maine. And then it was second week of December. Then it was the third week. Now it's like Christmas. We're lucky if we can do trips at Christmas or right after. And then we used to guide all the way through March. And now it's, well, last year we could only do the first week of March.
So do you guys think that it just won't be possible to do dog sledding here in the future?
Well, I think that's a given. The question is how far into the future?
We're kind of right at that point now. So we haven't had litter for 2 years because we're trying to decide whether we should phase back because it's very expensive to have the dogs, and plus just, you know, if they aren't working, that's what they're bred for, is to pull sleds. But I've been breeding for 37 years, so it's a big decision, you know, not to keep it on. But some other things that we're really noticing the changes, like the ticks that are here now. We didn't used to have ticks. And that's really affected the moose population because we have a lot of moose in this area.
We had,
Yeah.
past tense. In the last 2 or 3 years here, we are seeing a significant decrease in both moose sightings and signs. Because we're out all the time, so I look for tracks, I look for browse, droppings. We're not seeing it. You see a winter moose bed, and you're gonna see bloated ticks all over the bed. Some of the moose have so many ticks on them, they're literally, it makes them itchy, they're literally rubbing their winter coats off. 10 years from now, I think it's very questionable whether we're still gonna have a moose hunt, because if what happened in New Hampshire and Vermont happens here, you know, a 50% reduction in basically 4 or 5 years. That's gonna be a game changer.
Across the board, there are reductions in all forms of snow and ice that provide winter recreation.
The other mainstay in the winter here is snowmobiling. So last year when we had an open winter and there was very little snow and very little snowmobiling, businesses in town were really right on the edge.
You can't underestimate what snow means to not only our organization, but this whole region. It drives the snowmobilers coming up to snowmobile, it drives the ice fishermen coming up to spend a weekend with friends out ice fishing on the lakes and then staying in the resorts. It really drives our economy in the wintertime.
This house is a temple, sanctified and simple, and the chimney leaks in the winter like a mother's lost her head and the water runs red. The water runs red.
We documented changes in snowpack since the early 20th century throughout the western U.S. and found that over 90% of sites that have been monitoring snowpack have seen decreases.
Changes that we see, that we've observed from satellites and from ground-based measurements show us that spring is coming earlier, that spring snowpacks are declining, so the snow season's not as long as it used to be. In some cases, a couple of weeks, in some cases, more than that. We also see changes in the quality of snow in the sense that we have more rain on snow events, even in places like Alaska. We project that it will continue to warm and that we'll see an increase in the frequency of warm winters, especially in those warm winter months. Like if you see a December, January, or February where the temperature is above or at the melting point.
Long-time Vermonters, long-time resort administrators, and our owner do see a shift in the trends. You know, we aren't investing most of our capital money into snowmaking for no reason. I think in the back of everyone's mind, the concern is, you know, what happens when we have a month of 40 degrees in February? You know, what happens when, you know, December doesn't tick below 32? No matter how much we decide to invest in snowmaking, if it's not cold enough, it's not going to do anything for us.
As a human and as a father and a resident of this planet, I'm very concerned. The challenges that lie ahead as the climate changes are huge. And you know, we've just seen a lot of pieces of the puzzle falling into place that indicate that scientific predictions 20 years ago were right. You know, decreasing snowpack, rising sea level, increasing forest fires.
I care very, very deeply about issues around climate change. It's real, it's caused by people, and it's hurting us. And that's the short message. And that message has to become clear to all our policymakers and to all of our communities so that we can make appropriate decisions. And unfortunately, there's a minority of loud voices spouting ideas about, you know, scientists aren't in agreement. We are in agreement. We're in violent agreement around climate change. There's really no other way to say that. We all agree that climate change is real, it's caused by people, it's happening now, and it's hurting us, and it will continue to hurt us, and we need to take action now. That's really all that we can say at this point, so I'll stop there.
I think what concerns me the most about climate change is the overwhelming vastness of the problem and the fact that a lot of times it feels debilitating to think about how to implement change for all of us, which leads to inaction. This is Basil. When he was littler, he would curl around a bun on the top of my head, but now he usually hangs around my shoulders when I do like computer work or cooking. He's my email buddy. I see it impacting my work in lots of different ways. The warmer winters and less predictable snowfall, less predictable winters makes it so my sponsors, for example, haven't been selling as many goods. You know, these companies with so much vested in winter sports and in selling winter goods, they're not dumb. They're noticing what's happening and they're feeling it hit their pocketbook. And it's kind of crazy when you go to these big corporation sales meetings and they're talking about climate change and revenue.
When I look at Ski Butlers, I look at it as a 100-day season. And I would say that 100-day season is almost shrinking down to 90 days, maybe 80 days. It's not 2050, it's not 2075 that we need to worry about. We need to worry about it right now. It's already here, it's already happened. We need to make a change.
In the year 2002, the ski industry wanted to adopt a policy specifically on climate change because we saw it as a concern in our operations and a concern to our future.
We are more sensitive as an industry, and it is becoming a bigger factor in our decision-making processes. That's why you see some resorts and businesses that are aligned with snow sports having teams of people or representatives that are speaking for sustainability and are speaking for the environment within their own ranks. You know, we spoke earlier, Aspen has a sustainability VP. You know, Burton has a whole sustainability department.
99. The department was founded in late 97. This was the first sustainability department in the ski industry. And initially we created a foundation that employees would contribute to and run, and that the company would match. And those original things were kind of what I call conventional environmentalism. Get the recycling program in place. Get the foundation in place. We rapidly became interested in what are the bigger projects that can show leadership for mountain communities and for business broadly. What are those weird things we can do?
These are standard boilers that heat the hotel, but we replace these old, inefficient, probably 60% efficient boilers with these super efficient natural gas condensing boilers they range from 93 to 97% efficiency. And then all of these things are controlled by advanced electronics. The whole hotel has a computerized brain. And this was a canister that was a 400 watt fixture. We retrofitted it, and then we retrofitted it again to LED bulbs. So now this is a 22 watt fixture. So we went from 400 to 22, and each time we did it, we saved tens of thousands of dollars a year. This next story is a great example of how you do this stuff and how simple it often is. So after 20 years, we've done a lot of energy efficiency stuff. We changed the light bulbs, we put in the boilers, we did the energy efficiency building automation system. I went to Mark, the guy in the back room, and those engineers, and I said, what else could we do to make this place more energy efficient? And they said, you could put a door on the garage. So this is a heated space, and what this is a technology called a door that is fixing a energy efficiency problem called a hole. It's ridiculous. It's like, yeah, you know, it's stupid that we've failed to do that. On the other hand, you gotta think and ask, and everywhere you look, there's opportunity for energy efficiency. When the snow melts, it goes into the reservoir. We take a portion of the water. It comes into this building at 600 pounds of pressure, and we send it through a hole the size of a dime, going at about 100 miles an hour. It spins a water wheel. In this case, it's called a Pelton turbine, and that generates electricity. That goes into the utility grid. You know, this is tangible renewable energy generation. This is the turbine in here that spins. That's a dynamo. It goes into the utility grid.
Within a few years, we realized that not just because climate was the overreaching environmental issue of our time, but for a ski resort, it was the in-your-face, obvious problem that threatened everything around sustainability. So it very rapidly got to the point where sustainability was defined as solving climate change.
Resorts have been working to reduce their carbon footprints for years. It's not just the large destination resorts that are working on that. It's resorts of all sizes across the whole country.
I think that the solar panel investment is right in line with being an environmental business leader. Part of our strategy to help and not hurt.
Mitigation is also the springboard for advocacy on climate change. Unless you clean up your own house, you won't have the credibility that you need to go to Washington and convince policymakers and other businesses to take broad-scale action.
We as businesses that are dependent on snow sports, dependent on the environment, dependent on the outside, can't lead the way. We can't expect people that aren't dependent on that to do it.
Look, we are what we are. We're a luxury ski resort that uses a lot of carbon-based power, that has a business model that uses a lot of carbon flying people in and out. That's who we are. We're stuck with that. If that is who we are, what ought we do if we care about climate change? We've been asking that question for almost 20 years now. And we started by saying we should address energy. Okay, let's build a hydro plant. Let's build a green building. And then we'd pause and say, well, we did that. Is it enough? The best companies out there, Apple, Microsoft, Google, they're all reducing their carbon footprint. They're doing clean power. But that's just them. And unless everyone else in the world does it, you don't solve climate. Our position has become, you have to be using corporate voice and power and influence to drive policy change on climate at the utility level, at the state government level, and at the federal level.
I think that a lot of us just try and make the little changes, which are also really important, especially if we do it on a massive scale. But the big problem right now is needing to step up and acknowledge that it's an issue for a lot of us, and it needs to be talked about much, much more than it is now. It needs to be represented in a much bigger way politically than it is right now. So I've just been really trying to get involved with different social media campaigns or different organizations like Citizens Climate Lobby, or Protect Our Winters is another organization I'm involved with, and trying to link my voice as an athlete and my role as a spokesperson to try and motivate people and also speak to the right people and try and get change happening politically.
What we're most proud of is that we didn't just go out and buy some wind that was on the grid. We said if we can't build it here, then we want to be the impetus for it getting on the ground wherever it is. We actually put in the money to build new wind turbines, to put in new hydro power plants. So we actually put in the capital and infrastructure costs from the beginning. Then we contracted at what is actually a higher rate for that renewable energy. And we bought the RECs, the renewable energy credits. Right now we're looking into some micro hydro options on our local streams. We're always looking into more community solar options in the valley. That's the direction we're moving, is trying to make sure that any new construction takes care of their own energy use on site through wind or geothermal or solar.
One of the things we've seen just over the last 4 or 5 years is the dramatic drop in cost of renewable energy like wind and solar, coupled with advancements in software and technology that allows you to manage the grid in more sophisticated ways. And those developments are increasingly convincing us that it will be the same cost or lower cost to run a grid on 100% renewable energy.
The good news is that we have what it takes to get to 100% renewable electricity. Now it's just creating the space in these communities so that our decision makers know their community is behind them.
I'm always excited whenever I get a call from a peer city, just because there's so few cities that have even committed a sustainability director or have a mayor that's championing this effort, that I'm so excited when somebody else joins the ranks of that.
The greatest thing about our climate goals are they're community driven. They're not driven by a single council member who had this crazy ambition. It came from the community. The city has 2 goals that are based around 2 different time periods. So 2022, net zero carbon, 100% renewable for all of city operations. That expands community-wide by 2032. A 2032 net zero carbon goal gives us the most ambitious climate goal in North America. We're not going to be buying any more diesel buses. We're actually going to only be buying electric buses from here on out. We have affordable housing that's being designed to be net zero. We have a community center going in that's designed to be net zero. We're looking at a potential large-scale public utilities facility that will be net zero on site. This could be an economic boom because it'll create jobs for folks to go through and insulate and seal up homes. And then those homeowners will benefit because their energy bills will go down. So therefore you're freeing up more money on that end. It's a huge win-win. It's a huge economic opportunity for both our community and our state.
It's incredible to see the passion in mountain communities where one community will come together and say, we're going to take control of our clean energy future. It is a future without fossil fuels.
We're actually making huge headway towards both our 2022 and 2032 goals. This past February, Rocky Mountain Power, our major coal-fired utility, signed a cooperative agreement with us saying, we're going to work with you to get you there. We can do it in Utah. It's amazing what other communities should be able to do.
We know that the solution is transitioning to 100% clean energy as quickly as possible. And so we are going city by city, town by town, starting with the passion in our mountain communities to really get the ball rolling, and then from there getting other cities and universities and businesses to follow mountain communities' leads.
This afternoon, we're having our first meeting of the Breckenridge 100% Renewable Energy Task Force, which was formed as a result of my proposal to the mid-December Town Council. I'm feeling energized and excited about going to this first meeting, but I also am a little nervous. Frankly, I'm probably one of the least qualified people to be on the task force, in that I'm not an expert in any sort of renewable energy technology or in town government. I'm a very motivated citizen.
We just went around and did intros, so if you can introduce yourself to everyone.
What we're hoping is that Breckenridge will be an impetus for all the other communities to follow, so that we have a Summit County-wide commitment, and then to take that to the state level so that we can get Colorado as a state to commit. So that's my long-term goal. Breckenridge, Summit County, Colorado.
The first task force that you were a part of?
Yes. I started off with, let's just go to town council and see what happens. And I've been very pleased at how much we've been able to accomplish so far. As I said in the meeting, I want to see this move from Breckenridge making the commitment to Summit County making the commitment to the state of Colorado making the commitment.
The beauty of this movement is that it does start with one person, one citizen who steps up and says, I want to see my community tackle climate change. I want to see my community commit to 100% renewable electricity.
Brett Cease, originally from northern Minnesota, but in Texas now. And I think it was very sobering to drive through hours of brown grass this year from Minneapolis to Hayward.
I'm still processing what this weekend's experience with the canceled Birkebeiner means to me. But this was a wake-up call. It absolutely was motivating for me to realize that this fight is not only far away, but in our own backyards. And if we revere and cherish and care for the traditions that we've grown up with, we absolutely have to act now. And we have to find common ground. And we have to be courageous and reach out to people that we might not ultimately feel comfortable with talking to or feel some kind of hesitation with, and find those common ground solutions.
I think more people are starting to realize, you know what, we can't just sit on the side and assume things are going to work out the way we want them to. So I see people becoming more active, and I see not only me personally, but organizations like the Berkey Foundation getting more involved because they're realizing this is such a critical component as to what makes us go, that we need to get involved. We need to become really close with our politicians. We need to start to speak out about things that can help make a difference. On a personal note, I want my kids and my grandkids to be able to experience what it's like to go out sledding on a January day, or what it's like to go ice fishing or snowmobiling or skiing. And in 50 years from now, if places like this didn't have snow, I think we would have lost a big part of our identity and who we are and what makes us go around.
Businesses should be doing everything they can to reduce their carbon footprint. Generally speaking, that's all just good business. You know, if your business hasn't realized that changing light bulbs is a great way to make more money, you're probably not a very good business. The same with boilers, the same with clean energy development, which can often save money. In the simplest terms, if your CEO hasn't spoken out on the need for climate action, you're not a green company, period.
Thank you for coming tonight. The popcorn is awesome. The oldest popcorn machine in Wisconsin. Seriously.
God gave no other rainbow sign. God gave no other rainbow sign. God gave no other rainbow sign. Won't be water but fire next time. What are you gonna do when the world's on fire? What you gonna do when the world's on fire? What you gonna do when the world's on fire? God gave no other rainbow sign.
The Birkebeiner means so much to so many people, and tonight we're really here to celebrate the past history of the Birkebeiner and look ahead to the future and what we can do as citizens to shift the dynamic that's going on right now and actually help our young people move into this new paradigm called renewable energy, called building community, called we've got to get this thing done and we know how to do it. But we have to move the leaders and realize the leadership in each of us to make this happen.
Climate change is a difficult issue. It's difficult because it's big and it's far-reaching and it can be very far away. This year, climate change came to the Berkey and it became much more tangible for a lot more people. I hope that we're not too late, that we're finally getting people really overwhelmingly engaged in this.
Yeah, I think that the urgency and the severity of the problem, I don't think is understood by a lot of people. They got it this year. I think now, the dice has been cast and we're going to find tremendous engagement by some of these people that we met this weekend.
Still just amazed by the outpouring that we've had at the booth. Over and over, I have never seen people so anxious to take part in their democracy. I mean, sign a petition, yes, but write a letter to your member of Congress.
Down the stats, you want to use that, right?
Tim, and I'll come right.
Should be good at that. This is Thursday.
Okay, sorry.
You need a pen.
I'm just not.
24, 25.
Another Minnesota one. Wisconsin file.
Hold that tight and keep it not too high. Can you see everything?
There we go.
Yeah! Climate change what? Woo! Cool planet, cheers!
tears running down to your open mouth, moaning like a dog that wants out. You cry like somebody who chose the road most traveled down. Dreams of tennis skirts and wedding gowns, like a kid who crumbled under every frown. When the moment calls for might, when your house of glass ignites, you'll try to cry, the wolfish all they'll hear. You cry like somebody who never needed the tear. You cry like somebody who holds a candle to the night, thinking you can summon back the light. 'Cause your troubles never put up a fight. If you've known a bitter word, if you'd ever gone unheard, you'd learn by now to hold your head up when you bow. To cry like somebody with something to cry